A very good morning to all the students. Let's revise the topics which are left in your chapter 2. Final goods and intermediate goods. Final goods are those goods which are used for consumption or which are used for investment. Very simple. Like consumption, we include anything that we purchase, that is for our final consumption. And investment, whatever goods are purchased which are for long-term investment, like businesses, they do investment by buying machinery, so that is their final good. Now next is intermediate goods. Those goods which are used for resale or further production. What does it mean? There are a lot of goods which are used in the production process by the firm sector. So all these commodities which are used to produce some other commodity, they are known as intermediate goods. Examples are given, like if we are purchasing good for further production, we can take the example of a sweet shop that is using milk. Milk here becomes the intermediate good. Now the dairy shops, they are buying the milk to resell it to the general public, to the common people in the market. So again, resale, if you are doing it, then it is a intermediate commodity. Also, we can take the examples of mobile phones that are being purchased by the retailer for resale. That purchase for the reseller becomes their intermediate good. Now if I am purchasing the phone from the retailer, then that becomes my final good, because I am buying it for my final consumption. What are the important points? Let's see. There are generally purchased by one production unit from another. Intermediate goods, they are purchased within the production boundary. They remain within the production boundary. They have derived demand. They don't serve our direct demand. They are demanded for some other purpose. Durable goods which are purchased by the government are included under the category of intermediate goods, because they are purchased to produce defense services and not for market sale. So these durable goods, you will always term them under the category of intermediate, because they are actually being used as a derived demand. Okay, they are not actually wanted. They are wanted because they serve a particular purpose, which is important. Next is value of intermediate good merged with the value of final good. I have already told you, miller buy wheat, convert it into flour, and now the value of the flour includes the value of wheat. So final good is already taking in account the value of the intermediate good. Next page, production boundary. It is, you can say, a factory area, for example, where the good is manufactured. The goods which remain within the production boundary, which are used for the production of a commodity, they are called intermediate goods. And the goods which comes out of the production boundary, they are the final goods. How can we classify intermediate and final goods? According to its use. intermediate commodity will be used for making some other commodity. Okay, it is not directly demanded, it is demanded for the manufacturing of some another commodity. Final good, it is demanded for the final consumption. That is why it is a final good. National income includes only final goods. Why? Because final goods also carries the value of the intermediate goods. So that is why we only count the final goods. Goods which are used up in the same year are intermediate commodities. On the next page, you will see the difference between the final and intermediate goods on 2.7. All these points are being discussed, but I will again make you sure final goods refers to those goods which are used for final consumption or investment, as the definition says. Intermediate goods are used for further production and resale. Final goods are used in national income accounting, but intermediate goods are not used. Final goods have a direct demand, intermediate goods have a derived demand. They are used for final consumption, final goods, but they are used to have an value to the final commodity. Now they have crossed the production boundary, final goods, and they are inside the production boundary, intermediate goods. Milk purchased by a household is final good. Car purchased is for investment, is a final good. But milk purchased by a sweet shopkeeper, it is for them, it is intermediate commodity. Also, the chalk and duster we use in school, it lasts within a year. Obviously, within months the duster lasts, and within days, 1 day or 2 days at most, the chalks last. So they are intermediate goods. Please go through all the items which are categorized as intermediate and final good after this topic, so you can be more specifically understandable in your answers in the concept. Next page is 2.8. Now comes the topic of consumption good and capital good. What are the consumption goods? Which are directly consumed by the consumer. Bread, butter, whatsoever they are buying directly for their use. AC, cooler, whatsoever they are buying for their final consumption or use, whether it is durable or non-durable, it is known as a consumption good. They can be durable, first point. They can be semi-durable like clothes. They can be non-durable like food grains, milk, bread, and the services, which refers to non-material goods that satisfy human wants, like services of doctors and teachers. So these are all known as the consumption goods. Then comes the page 2.9, capital goods. Those goods which help in the production of other goods, they are known as capital goods, like tools, machineries, equipments, plants, whatsoever. They are used for further production and they remain as it is. They don't lose their identity in the production process. Okay, why we say that? Because intermediate goods, they lose their particular you can say identity. If we are making clothes from cloth is a some cloth is termed as which is not stitched, which is in raw form. Clothes which are stitched, which are ready to wear. So when a cloth is used for making clothes, it loses its identity. It is not there now because it's already used up. Okay, so they don't lose identity, the capital goods. They need over the period of time, there is a basic wear and tear involved. There is a need for repair and replacement for that, and they are actually having a derived demand because they are demanded because they are used for the purpose of carrying out the production process. So if we classify the consumption goods and capital goods, the classification is also given. They are actually goods can be both consumption and capital. It depends on the use, ultimate use, how we are able to use a particular good. For example, if it is being purchased by household and used by household, then we can call it a consumption good. If it is used by the particular production in the production process by a producer, then it must be a capital good. So the use is very important. Please go through the differences also at the bottom of next page. You can see on page 2.10 there are distinctions given. Final good, it can be a consumption good also, it can be a final capital good also. Both are known as final goods. On the other hand, intermediate good is given separately. So consumption good like car, cloth, sugar, if it is purchased by the household, then or any other service, then it is a final good. If these things are purchased by any firm and for use in their production process, then it is known as the capital good. Like car, it is used by the firm. Cloth, it is unsold with the trader. Sugar also, if it is lying unsold with the trader at the end of the year. We will now term this thing as a capital good. Intermediate good, how it become intermediate good? If government is using a car for the military, then the basic purpose is defense and security. So this is actually intermediate good. Car becomes intermediate when it is being purchased by the particular car dealer to resale. Next is, if cloth is being used for making dresses, then it is intermediate commodity. Resale, we already know. Sugar is being purchased by the sweet shop owner for making sweets, then it is intermediate good. Services of doctor, lawyer and others, if it is used by the enterprise, it is intermediate good. Lawyer services are basically used in many firms, and so they are termed as the intermediate goods. Next topic, gross investment, net investment and depreciation. What do you understand by gross investment? When the total addition to the capital stock at a given period of time, whatsoever capital stock that is known as fixed assets which are being used, total fixed assets at a point of time in the country, and along with that whatever unsold stock is left, it is also a part of gross investment. Now, when we deduct the depreciation from this gross investment, then we get net investment. So the equation is also given here. If you see at the bottom of the, what do you mean by depreciation? It is the wear and tear of machinery which is known as depreciation. It is actually the reduction in the value of that fixed asset or machinery during a passage of time. So what is the gross value? When net value plus depreciation. What comes the next value? When gross value minus depreciation. So what are the reasons for depreciation? Normal wear and tear, passage of time, expected obsolescence. Means now they are of no value to the particular producer who has that machinery, because now it is out of date. New machinery has come up, new technology has come up, it has become out of date. Now then there is a difference between depreciation and capital loss. Depreciation is already clear. Capital loss is value of the fixed assets. It reduces because of some reasons which were not known, okay, that were unforeseen obsolescence or unforeseen natural calamity or theft or accident whatsoever, but that was not expected, something that occurs all of a sudden. Like I bought this machinery today, and a few days later I got an idea that a new machines came into the market which are much better than this. So that is unexpected capital loss. Now next is provision is made for replacement of assets. Okay, in the accounts also you make provisions, but in capital loss no such provision is made in the case of capital loss. Depreciation, it is actually a very general phenomena. It happens and it is already accounted for in the accounts of the company that yes, this machinery, by the passage of these years, after every year we will put depreciation on that, some value reduction. But in capital loss we don't know when it happens, so there is no provision made for it beforehand, and it hampers the production process because we have not thought of it. It just happened, we were not ready for it. Next is net indirect taxes. The formula is clearly given: indirect taxes minus subsidies. Indirect taxes are which are imposed by the government on the production and sale of goods and services. We are already aware of the different taxes which are indirect taxes. Yes, given here: excise duty, custom duty, sales tax. These are all the indirect taxes. So when the indirect taxes, we are actually talking about the taxes by the government, not the direct taxes. These are indirect taxes. When we buy a product in the market, we have to pay some tax which is included in the value of the product. Yes, that is indirect tax. Now they are also producing that commodity, the producer is also paying certain taxes. Next is subsidies. Subsidies are assistances which are given by the government. Why? Because at times the particular production industry, it is located in a backward area, so government is promoting industrialization in those areas, backward areas, so people get employment, people get support. So these factories, they are encouraged because they are even provided some kind of subsidies. Subsidies, they are exemptions by the government on taxes, that if you operate in this area, you will not pay tax for the coming 5 years, for example. This is a kind of subsidy. So subsidies are economic assistance to the firms. These when we deduct from our indirect taxes the subsidies, we get net indirect taxes. Next is factor cost and market price. Factor cost, we are talking about the factors of production which are used in the production process. Whatever amount is paid to them, it is known as factor cost. Market price, when the price at which the product is sold in the market, that is known as the market price. So this is the difference. Market price is equal to factor cost plus net indirect taxes. So net indirect taxes, we know these are taxes and subsidies. If we add it to the factor cost, we get the market price, because the market price already include the indirect taxes. When we go and buy a product, we are paying it already. It is included in the cost. So this is the equation here. Next in the line is net factor income from abroad, NFIA. In short form we call it NFIA. What is the formula? Factor income from abroad minus factor income paid to abroad. From abroad is when the normal residents of our country who are actually earning this money from the countries in which they are working. So this is their factor income from, or earned income from abroad. To abroad, for factor income to abroad is when the factor income is paid to the normal residents of other countries for their working in our country. They are working in our economic territory, we are paying them the factor income. So what is the importance of this factor income? Now in domestic income, we only account for income which is earned within the economic territory of the country, or in the domestic territory of the country, domestic income. Now when we add NFIA to the domestic income, that is factor income earned from abroad, we are taking account, and to abroad we are deducting. We are actually getting national product, or we are actually calculating national income when from domestic income we add the NFIA. Next formula is clearly stated on page 2.13 at the very top. NFIA can be positive, NFIA can be negative or zero. That's very clear. If we are earning more from other countries, it is positive. If we are earning less as compared to they are earning in our economic territory, then it is negative, or zero also when it is equal. What are the major components of NFIA? Net compensation to employees. Compensation to employees means income they are receiving. Okay, and compensation is income, their wages and salaries. Property and enterprise, if they are earning from their property, from their entrepreneurship skills, that is known as net income from property and entrepreneurship. Net retained earnings, it is the difference between retained earnings of resident companies locating abroad and retained earnings. Whatever retained earnings, we are already aware that whatever earnings are retained in a business or left in a business after making payments to everyone, like after giving out to the different factors of production and after taking the profits. Retained earning is used by a firm for the investment in the coming time. You are advised to look at the calculative part here using the same formulas which I have explained to you. So we covered all the topics from this chapter. Domestic territory, normal resident, transfer and factor income were covered in the last lecture. This lecture we covered final intermediate good, consumption capital good, gross investment, net investment, depreciation, NIT, net indirect tax, NFIA, net factor income from abroad. Very much advised all the students to look at the back exercise, every question that is there, every MCQ. You must be aware about your paper pattern. There are 10 marks MCQ from this book. So look at each and every detail of your questions at the back. They are very important to solve. If you face any problem, you can ask your questions. Thank you.